All right. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode titled The Future. We'll talk about the current world of sales, what's working, what isn't, and what the future could look like. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce my friend, Scott Lease. Scott, thanks for joining me.
What's up, Damien? Congrats to the newlywed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, feels good. Feels good. It's the next chapter, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
combining that with like some worldwide travel and all that stuff. So I'm jealous, man. You're in a good spot. Good for you.
Cheers. Yeah. Yeah. And for context to anyone listening, I recently got married and Emily and I are now full time in our entrepreneurial journey. So we're going to do a bit of traveling while we're working on that. So we're excited for that. But this isn't about me, Scott, man. I was thinking there's a lot of people obviously that know you. You're a well-respected voice, in this space. But for those that don't, if you're cool, just starting out with a little bit about your story, why you're here, what you're stoked about, what you do. I think that's a good place to start.
Sure. I've spent the better part of the last 20 years building and scaling sales orgs in tech and startups and B2B. I was a VP of sales 6 times and kind of specialized in taking companies essentially from zero to call it 20, 25 million ARR. So 100 million to $1 billion plus valuations. And I just really gravitated towards that early stage. I'm not a big corporate guy, probably shocks no one. You're never going to find me working at, Oracle or IBM or something like that. So, the company would get to like a certain size and scale, and I would just kind of get bored or frustrated with the politics or too much red tape. And I'm like, I got to get back to the beginning and my roots and like build something else again. So I think that was like sort of the beginning of some entrepreneurial spirit, if you will. And along the way, I started kind of branching out and doing some things to set the groundwork for me to be able to go out on my own. I started doing brand building and posting content all the time on LinkedIn in particular. And then I wrote a book on sales, and I created a sales conference in Costa Rica. I started writing a couple more books and doing more consulting and advising and building communities and running events for 3 years on Thursday nights with this company, Thursday Night Sales, and all this kind of stuff. So the last 4+ years, I've been running my own consulting company, specifically working with Series A, Series B companies, helping them build a repeatable, scalable process, and running Surf and Sales, which is a sales conference, micro sales conference that I host a couple times a year in Costa Rica. And I'm also running a business called GTM United, that is a sales and revenue community. So that's kind of what I've been doing, and that's a fast version of 20 years of my experience.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. And I think your journey is really inspiring for someone like myself, where you have bet on yourself and gone all in, and a lot has kind of come from that. Maybe before we jump into kind of the topic a little bit, like for anyone listening maybe that isn't sales and is thinking about doing that, what advice would you give them, and how has that journey been? I mean, it's obviously a lot of highs and lows, and I'm experiencing right now.
Yeah. Well, I did it a little bit differently than some people. A lot of people, I think, maybe they lose their job and they're just like, well, fuck it, it's time for me to just go all in on my own, and they kind of start from scratch. I am a bit of a scaredy cat, and not the biggest like financial risk taker in the world.
Yep.
So for me, I always thought, well, like, here's my regular income, here's income on the side. And if I can ever get my side income to match my regular W-2 income, then I'm ready to say, off I go, screw it, I'm gonna give it a go.
Yep.
And so that's what I started doing, whether it was like a little bit of book royalties here every month and a little bit of coaching there. And I have 1 or 2 consulting clients on the side, or I ran this conference and made some good money. But once they sort of lined up, I'm like, well, I got nothing to lose at this point in time, right? It's not going to be hard for me, in theory, if I go bet on myself and fail, to go back and get another VP of sales job. I've already proven that I can do that.
Exactly.
So let me see what happens. So I went out all on my own, and I got lucky, or maybe I knew what I was doing, whatever you want to call it. I managed to do very well over the last 4 years. You know, I went from making mid six figures to, in year one on my own, doing over seven figures.
Hell yeah.
Did even more in year two, did an insane amount in year three. And this year it's been a tough year, candidly, but I'm still going to do well north of seven figures. So
Wow.
you know, you can't really make that kind of money, in my experience, in early stage tech and sales and leadership and whatnot. So from a financial perspective, winning.
Yeah.
From a who's in control perspective, winning, because don't have a board, don't have a boss telling me what to do. If I want to go play pickleball today, I go play pickleball. If I want to go golf, if I want to sleep in till 10 a.m., I do that. I can arrange things. All the sort of construction of the life that you want to live stuff that people talk about is very real. The downside, though, is every single day you're putzing around or, you know, living your best life, you're not actually building your business. You're not closing any deals. You're not building any pipeline. You're not working on retaining certain clients or overachieving for them, right? Or casting a bigger net. So it's very difficult, in my experience, to feel like fully present in each thing that you're doing. When I'm working, I'm present. When I'm not working and I'm supposed to be relaxing, I'm still thinking about my business and what I should be doing. So I find it, for me, much harder to kind of turn it off. If that makes sense. And I've heard a lot of solopreneurs talk about, you know, how difficult it is to even go on vacation. You go on vacation and like, shit, everything kind of, you know, shuts down, right? And this is the first year where I've had a down year. This is actually the first year in my whole entire professional life where I will earn less money than the year before. Now, I'm not complaining too much about what I'm earning, but whoever you are, when you make significantly less than you did the year before, it sucks. It's not an awesome feeling. So there's stress there. There's self-doubt. Like, did I lose it? You know, am I like a rock band that is no longer cool? Nobody's going to buy my next album. Like, what's going on? Right? Do I still know what I'm doing? Do I even know how to fucking close a deal anymore? You have all of these kind of thoughts, you know, circling around in your head. So ups and downs, sure. But you know, primarily for me thus far, way more upside than downside.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's amazing insight. And also that switching off piece is a reality for many when they're working on their own stuff, for sure. It is tough to switch off. And I think you know, when we don't see consistent performance, it's easy to be our own, you know, biggest critic and doubt ourselves, and that voice begins to question things. And I think it's an amazing opportunity, a reminder to always look back at that success. And for you, you know, it has been so great, and it's like that wouldn't have happened if you weren't doing a kick-ass job. So it's like an amazing reminder, I think, for an entrepreneur, but also segueing into sales a little bit here, but also for a sales professional. I think looking back, like right now, times can be tough, let's say, for I think a lot of different industries, whether you're a solopreneur or whether you're, you know, a sales professional. And I think there's a lot of people out there right now that are experiencing that self-doubt, you know, on many levels. And I've spoken to a lot of sales professionals recently that have expressed that self-doubt, even expressed doubt in the career of sales, if it's for them, if they're cut out for it anymore. Again, kind of that rock band analogy, like, do they still got it? And I think one thing I'm always telling them is like, man, you were doing a great job. You've done a great job. You haven't just lost that. So I guess it is interesting because it's very relevant to this conversation in terms of the current state of things and how they are. What are your thoughts kind of on, and maybe we'll talk about the current world of sales, I guess, and right now being a sales professional in this landscape?
Well, I think for anybody that entered the workforce after, call it 2008 or 9, maybe 2010, this is probably the first time that you've been kind of punched in the mouth as a salesperson, because things have primarily been pretty good. There's a lot of success stories. There's a lot of, opportunity to be had, quotas to be hit, people earning good money, all this kind of stuff. But if you're as old as me and you were in the workforce before 2010, you can remember like a 2008 cycle where all sorts of people lost their jobs, and the housing market crashed and all this kind of stuff. And there's people making really good money that suddenly couldn't. And if you go even back farther than that, there's like the dot-com crash, which was happening right around the time I was finishing college, I think. So people who've been around for a while have gone through this kind of thing before. And you just sort of have to take a step back and remind yourself, like, this is going to pass as well. This too shall pass type of thing, right? Like, it's a little bit cyclical. At some point, the economy will recover. I don't know when, but at some point it will. At some point, you'll spot growth opportunities. People who are good know how to network the right way and find these kind of opportunities and say yes to certain companies and products to sell and no to other ones that are a little bit more complicated. So drawing on that, if you've been through it, I think is super important to remember. If you've never been through it, probably important to listen to a few people who have been through it before. So maybe you don't panic and say, well, maybe sales is not for me. I guess I'm going to go be a, janitor or something like that, right? To kind of stick with it, stick through it a little bit. There's some brutal stat right now that like only 1 in 4 sellers are actually going to hit quota for 2023.
Yeah. And I'm hearing that a lot in conversations I'm having with, I actually haven't spoken to in my sample group, anyone that is going to hit quota this quarter. And that's like, I don't know, it seems, aligned with that stat you just said.
Yeah. So you have to start to think about what is the reason for that? And specifically, what are the reasons that are within my control? Because none of us controls the economy. And unless you're a founder, you're not controlling the direction of the business and what you're allowed to do and what to build and what not to build and all that kind of thing. But what is within my control? Well, always within my control is my attitude. Always what's in my control is the effort that I put forth. And you have to take accountability right now to try to educate yourself on what is actually working. And you have to maybe change it up a little bit. You can't just make 200 phone calls a day and expect to hit your quota. You can't just send 2,000 emails a week and expect to hit your quota, because the reality is behavior has changed globally. We simply don't talk on the phone the way that we used to. We don't answer the telephone every time it rings. Everybody has caller ID. Everybody's used to getting spammed. Most people have their ringer off. Certainly if you're in a public setting, unless you're one of those deadbeats that's on speakerphone in the middle of the airplane and has no sense of social awareness. Right? It's no different with email. Everybody's email inbox is exploded, right? Spam, scams, newsletter this, right? It's like you can't even filter through and find the messages that you would really want to get. So what do you need to do? How do you break through? Well, some of the things that are working for people is going back to what used to work way back in the day before we tried to automate the hell out of the job. Meaning direct mail suddenly works for some people. Creative direct mail as well. Maybe not just like a 1-page letter, but like what's on the letter, something fun or goofy. My buddy Dale Dupree does this crumpled letter campaign that he swears by, right? He sends an empty box of donuts with a note written on the box that says, "I got tired of waiting for your reply. Call me back and I'll refill this donut box." Like, it doesn't really matter what the thing is. That's creative. Getting back and meeting people face to face, if you can do that, whether that's going to events, networking things, conferences, what have you, just going on client visits maybe. And utilizing your network has never been more important, because that's the way I think you can cut through the noise. You're not going to take a phone call from a number you don't know, but If I call you, presumably you're going to pick up the phone or call me back and be like, yo, what's going on? If I send you an email, you look at your inbox, you're like, oh, I wonder what Scott has to say. So if I come to you and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of Emily, she runs this business. She might have this problem. I have this solution. I run this company. Like, do you know her well enough to make an intro? That type of go to network nearbound kind of motion is starting to pick up a lot of steam. And I think that's going to be one of the ways that we open opportunities moving forward. I see that increasing, not slowing down. I do see cold calling and cold emailing slowing down and becoming more and more difficult to break through the noise. So, you have to become a student of the game a little bit.
Yeah.
And be willing to experiment and recognize that what won the title last year for me might not work anymore. And I got to do something a little bit different.
That alone is, I think, an amazing reminder, or even opportunity for initial awareness of this concept of like, hey, we got to stop right now, analyze what's going on. And maybe we've just been kind of in autopilot previously, doing all this shit like the cold calling and the outreach, whatever, and not even thinking about the why behind it. And this, I think, is an amazing opportunity right now for everyone to just stop and see, like, what I'm doing right now. Is it working? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Could I do this a little differently? And I think we have, the last few years especially, kind of just been in this autopilot of like doing the thing because that's what you do. And these moments of downtime, or however you want to refer to them as, are an amazing opportunity to reflect and modify and change. So I think that's a really good lens. And for anyone listening, this time right now could be a good opportunity for you to reflect and maybe put together some new strategy going into the new year. Because like you said, this is only going to be probably temporary.
Yeah. I mean, I by no means have this all figured out.
Right? No.
I literally just got done telling everybody, like, this is the first year I've gone the wrong direction, for me.
Yeah.
But I am not standing still. I'm trying to do certain things that I've historically ignored because I didn't think they were important, or maybe I was lazy. Maybe there was no need, right? I've existed solely off of my LinkedIn audience, you could argue, for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, since April, my LinkedIn reach and engagement is down like 70%. So what am I supposed to do? Stand around and do nothing and just like suffer? Probably not. I should probably start to invest in some other channels. So, what am I doing on Twitter? What am I doing on Instagram? What am I doing on TikTok? What am I doing on, YouTube? What are the things I'm doing to try to grow my network, to get new opportunities coming my way? What about new tools? Everybody wants to talk about AI and, how all the big changes that are coming. Are they going to come? Are we all going to be out of jobs? All this kind of stuff. And I didn't want to hear about AI or talk about AI at all for a long time. It's just like annoying to me. I don't like new cool fads, right?
Yeah.
But now I find myself like, I created a whole sales training program that's 100% AI driven. This series called the Sales Reaper series that I made with my friends Ryan Walker and David Bonney, and I can give it to you and put in the show notes or something like that. And I've got like a program I'm working on with a partner who's creating like an AI avatar version of me with my voice, my tone, the way I sell, making cold calls. Because maybe in the future, you can have a AI sales force rather than having to pay human beings. Is that good for humanity? I don't know. Probably not. But it's an interesting thing for me to explore. Can I license out myself basically as a salesperson for God knows how many different companies? So, it's not that I would never say like, I know exactly what I'm doing. I don't know if any of these things that I'm trying are going to work at all, but I'm not standing still. I'm at least trying. I'm taking swings. I'm not super afraid of failing and missing, because at the end of the day, it's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is, well, I have to go find a job and I have to go work for somebody else again. right? And that's not even that bad, because if you can think about the things that you've gone through in your life that were harder than anything else, finding a new job kind of pales in comparison, right?
100%.
And that
100%.
perspective, I think, is real important to remember, right?
Yeah. I think your message right now will resonate with a lot of people. I think because of the fact you are someone that I think is well respected in the space. Speaking of LinkedIn, like, you're one of the OGs in the sales space, man. So I think that will never go away in terms of like what you've done, what impact you had on that platform. So I think being willing to grow and adapt to the, things that you need to do is amazing. Like, I think your mindset, that growth mindset is essential. And I think that's amazing. And good things will come from that for sure. Because yeah, times are definitely moving quickly right now in terms of like the future of sales. I think we're all trying to pinpoint this, like AI, like what does this look like? There's a lot of chat, there's a lot of uncertainty. Um, with that, I guess, what would you say, or what advice would you give to a sales professional right now that is struggling a little bit with this downtime? I know you've given some really good pointers there already, but maybe just like if someone's listening right now, the scenario is they're going through a tough time. They're not hitting their quota, this quarter, and they're just really having some self-doubt. And there's a lot going on internally, and they're trying to navigate that. What would you maybe say to them as a message, just to
Well, I think most importantly, I would say that they're not alone,
yeah, man,
because you could argue that 75% of the sales world
exactly.
is actually feeling exactly like you are.
Yeah.
So then I would tell you, go find your community, go find your tribe, go find other people that you can gel with and mesh with, and, swap horror stories or opportunities, or find people to collaborate with, right? So get involved with, micro communities, go
Mhm.
to events, networking events that are free, paid events, if you can afford it, that are things that have been on your mind that you haven't done. I think it's a good time, if you have the means, to invest in yourself, in your skills, in your health, in your mindset, because those things are only going to make you, better. Keep trying to learn
Yeah.
new things, improve the things that you already think that you're pretty good at. Double down on building your network,
Mhm.
and to go full circle to where we started. It's like probably a good time to diversify your income streams as well,
Yep.
because I can't imagine a worse feeling than being a seller right now who's not hitting their quota, worried about keeping their job, and has no other stream of income coming in. Now that's very difficult, I think, to do if you're, just graduated college and you're very junior in your
Mhm.
career. So I'm maybe not speaking as much to those people
Right.
as I am to people who've been in the game for 10, 20 years.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think you can exist on one stream of income anymore if you're really trying to like get ahead and
Mhm.
make a difference. So think about the skills that you have. How can you monetize those skills?
Mhm. Mhm.
What can you do to bring in an extra, couple $1,000 a month, maybe? Or
Yeah.
hell, what can you do that would pay one bill a month? Here's a perfect example. I have had a litany of serious health issues, life-threatening health issues, 1,000,001 injuries. And in general, I tend to be a little bit of a workaholic. So I'm not good at prioritizing going to get exercise and go work out. But one of the things that I used to do and love is I used to play soccer. I played college soccer, I played semi-pro soccer.
Nice.
I used to ref games and coach and all this kind of stuff. Well, I have two boys who are 13 and 15 years old, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to instill in them like, hey, you need to work a little bit and get used to making some money and this kind of thing.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yep.
I made them go get soccer referee licenses.
Oh yeah,
And
nice.
so I've been dragging them out, sometimes against their will, to go referee games, and I'm refereeing games. I don't need the money. I'm not doing it for the money necessarily, right?
Mhm.
But the reality is, I'm going and reffing games on the weekends with my kids. So I'm combining family a little bit, family time with work time.
Mhm.
I get paid about $75 a game that I'm reffing.
That's
I
pretty
might
good.
ref 2-3 games over the course of a weekend.
Yeah.
So let's say I make $200 a weekend.
Mhm.
I'm also running about 2.5 miles per game. So I'm telling myself, like, I'm getting paid a little bit. My cell phone bill is covered. My electric bill is covered. My gas bill is covered over the course of a month to go spend time with my kids and go exercise. I'm getting paid to go exercise and spend time with my kids.
Hell yeah. I
And
love that.
everybody could do something small like that.
Yep.
If you were any kind of athlete or have experience in any sport, you could go do that, make a few $100 a month. That's not going to change your world. But like I said, if it's something you enjoy doing, has a couple benefits, and even covers one bill of yours, that's probably a good thing to get involved with. Right?
Absolutely.
And how can you compound little opportunities like that all over the place? That's how you start to stack income to get yourself to this other level.
That's actually really, really solid advice. And actually, I'm a fellow soccer guy myself, and did started reffing when I was like 13. So
Well, there you go. You know
maybe I
exactly
get
what I'm
back out
talking
there,
about.
man. Maybe I get back out there. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
you
know
know
exactly what
exactly
you're
what
talking
I'm
about.
talking about
I
then.
got my like I forget what the levels are called, but my level to like ref like under 18 uh men's travel soccer. Like I got that certification. So yeah, I went through the whole thing, man. Certifications and that actually getting into diversifying, your revenue. When I was in high school, kind of around the same age, I guess, as your boys would be, I was reffing. That was what I did to make money. But then also I was doing the lines on the soccer field. So when I was in high school, my neighbor was like an older guy, an older English guy, and he was kind of retiring from doing the lines in the field. So he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, do you want to do the lines in the soccer field?" I'm in like I was like 15, 16. I was like, yeah, for sure. Didn't realize how big of a task it was. So I was like the guy for the town that did all the soccer fields. So there was probably maybe like 20 fields that I was in charge of maintaining. Well, being in school, while playing soccer myself. So I actually ended up hiring a bunch of my buddies in high school working for me. I paid them a little more than they'd make working wherever else, but I was still getting paid by the club and like the town. So I had this like lump sum of money, and by the time I was like 17, I had like people working for me under this line
Yeah, you're
business.
running a
And
business.
yeah, man, I was running a business. That was the first like business I was running. So what I'm getting at is like even then I was kind of thinking about like ways to get creative and diversify. And I think that's such a really, really good reminder. Even like reffing, I'm part of me is like, oh, I'm past that now, right? But it's like, nah, dude, like your perspective on it changes the way you look at it. It's like you're getting movement. You're in your case, you're spending time with your family and getting outside,
Yeah,
being around the game that you love. That
sure.
probably brings back some like
Yeah,
good
yeah,
feel
yeah,
good shit.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think
And
that's
I think what is important is for people to think about in their own life, where can I replicate that type of thing that feels good and works for me,
mhm.
right? This is where like you have certain skills or certain experience, and how can you apply it to keep yourself afloat, to keep yourself, in good spirits, physical, mental health, all this kind of stuff. Give back a little bit, and so whether it's refereeing sporting events or being involved in like vending machine business or a laundromat business
Mhm.
or coaching sales people in cohorts or putting on a event in Thailand, you and Em are going to be in Thailand. Like, okay, Damien and Emily in Thailand. How many people can you get to go to Thailand for a couple day event to cover XYZ thing that is in your specialty? Can
Totally.
you charge for it, and can you make a profit out of it and create an experience? Bang, there's a business right
Yeah.
there. That's essentially what I did with surf and sales.
Mhm.
My buddy Richard Harris and I, we were in Costa Rica on the beach, and we just like had this idea, like, how come sales conferences are never in a cool place like Costa Rica, and they're always in some lame place like St. Louis or some shit like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to St. Louis and go to the Marriott conference room. Like, I want to go to the beach,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
learn a little bit, but I also want to have fun. I want to exercise. I want to surf. I want to have a couple cocktails. I want to, you know, eat good food and have like intimate conversations with people and really like have an experience, right? So anybody can do that type of thing and profit off of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's an amazing point. And I think also surf and sales is also, side note, something that's on my list that I do want to check out one day as well. But that is a really good idea for Emily and I. It's something that we have thought about actually. It's like combining our worlds together and doing something. Because I think right now as well, going back, kind of linking this full circle, people are craving a bit of community. People might have some time. And an opportunity to invest in themselves. So some of these retreats and events like Surf and Sales is an amazing opportunity to work on yourself, to you know, equip yourself for that new year. And that's like a lot of the work I'm doing right now with a lot of people. It's like, okay, let's take this opportunity to work on kind of the inner game of this to make sure that when things are picking up, or when, you know, the next version of you is developing, you're equipped and ready to take that on. So it's, these downtimes can be a great opportunity to do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And I think that is in itself a really powerful reminder, because, you know, I challenge and ask anyone listening to this, like, when was the last time you invested in yourself, and what are you doing to invest in yourself to make sure that you can stay relevant in the game and sustain everything that is coming, you know, your way when things do quote unquote pick up. So that is something that I think is good for people to think about. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, there's so much here we can chat about. I feel like we could riff on this for a while. I guess just to maybe wrap up, you know, I think anyone that is struggling right now, there's been some really good kind of insight and advice into them. But maybe just one final question for you around, what do you believe the future of sales looks like? I know we had chatted about AI and some of these types of things, but like, let's say, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, like just some of the stuff that you think will become more relevant. This is again an opinion, just like industry, just like what your opinion, your take on it, like, you know, the near future of what it might look like.
Well, I think you're going to continue to see founders and VCs and operators try to automate out as many manual human tasks as possible. And that does mean certain jobs will get replaced, in my mind. I do think you're going to continue to see cold call rates, email rates, LinkedIn DM rates go down. There is just too much noise.
Yeah.
Too much volume. We all have notification overload. I think you're going to continue to see the rise of your network mattering more and more and more, and this inherent layer of trust that comes with that, with those relationships mattering. I think you're going to continue to see AI innovate and push the field in ways that, you know, are a little bit mind-boggling right now. I mean, imagine you start a company, Damien, and rather than hiring 20 salespeople, you have an avatar version of your 20 favorite LinkedIn influencers with all their different sales styles that just make calls all day long for you, that they don't get tired, they don't make mistakes, they don't complain, they require no management. I think weird shit like that is coming. I don't think it's 1 year from now, but 5-10 years from now, I think that's coming. In a different sense, as far as market goes, I think what people need to start thinking about is, when they're looking for jobs and opportunities, stop looking for companies that sell to other startups. I think that is a fool's errand right now, and part of the reason of the collapse of so many things. So I think opportunities are to go into industries that are kind of unsexy, antiquated, ripe for disruption, and what can be done there to modernize these industries. I'll give you an example. It's a free
I love
business
that.
idea for somebody. I don't know when the last time you went to the doctor's office or the hospital was, but the next time you go, glance at the software program that they're using to input your information. And you'll be like, there's no fucking way somebody's using this 1985 Oregon Trail piece of software. But they are.
Yeah.
And you know, people don't try to go at that industry because it is a behemoth. Think about all the rules and regulations you have to go through and the red tape to sell into massive hospitals, right? Or the education sector in the United States or in government.
Yeah.
These are big, huge things. And people are like, oh, it's going to take me like 2.5 years to close a deal in there. Yeah. That's why there's opportunity there, because nobody else is stupid enough to go for it. But if you pull it off and you win, massive opportunity.
Totally.
So I think if you think about these like vertical specific kind of software plays, I think those are very interesting things for the next few years for people to focus on.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it reminds me of a company. Again, I'm not affiliated with them at all, but a friend of mine works for them. But their motto is making credit unions relevant and modern in today's times, because credit unions are outdated and there's a lot of credit unions out there. So that's what they focus on is making credit unions relevant in their software. They have like a suite of options that they basically set up for them. So
I don't know anything about that business
yeah,
or credit unions, but it's like, is that ripe for disruption? Probably. How many people don't trust banks?
Yeah.
How many people have been talking about cryptocurrency and everything else because fintech and like democratizing finances is kind of a hot topic. So there's something there. That to me is more interesting for me personally than how do I sell Damien the next cool, interesting piece of sales tech?
Yeah, man. That's yeah, I think that's an amazing opportunity again for people to think about. I think we're always trying to innovate, but it's like, how can we kind of expand on these industries that are behemoths and are so established and make them better instead of always layering on. Maybe we need to start coming out this way a little bit. And by this way, I mean for anyone listening. Yeah. Cool, man. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here just because we're at time, but it's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. We'll chat soon, probably get you back on here again at some point, but appreciate you, man.
Yeah. When you do your event in Thailand, let me know.
I shall. All right,
Damien. Cheers, man.
Thank you so much.